Hello, everyone. Welcome to JH Creative. I am so excited about introducing you to my next guest, Larry Weru. I know him as Larry. He also goes by Lawrence Weru. So if you Google him, you'll see all of his stuff in the top rankings. I will go ahead and pull him up. And as I do so, I will just mention his bio briefly, and then we can dive right into his story. Hey, Larry, happy to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Nice to catch up after all these years.
I know, it's crazy. So for those of you who don't know Lawrence is an American public health advocate, collaborative storyteller, and information designer. This year, he has written and co-written on public health topics as a freelance writer for Slate and Vox, co-authored public health op-eds published in the Orlando Sentinel, Toronto Star, Vancouver Sun, KevinMD, Waterloo Region Record, Niagara Falls Review, Welland Tribute, and it continues still, St. Catharines Standard, and has served as a panelist and speaker at Florida State University and University of South Florida and Harvard Medical School. So I'm super happy and thrilled that you can take the time out of your busy schedule to be here on Get Creative with JH Creative, the JHC and Friends live series. Thank you so much, Lawrence.
Wow, thank you. I can't follow that intro.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I know. It covers it all. It's a nice bio there. I can't beat that either myself. So first off, what are you up to these days? We can mention briefly to everyone, we met at Domi when you were a student, when you were pretty much developing a lot of really cool projects. So do you want to reminisce a little bit and talk about how we met and just how you went from being a student to now?
Oh man, yeah. So back when I was in college, I took some web dev classes, and I ended up making a couple of apps to help some orgs I was involved with, like United Way. And at the same time, I noticed I would go into a lot of offices and wait in line to meet with my advisors. And oftentimes there wasn't a receptionist. And I would just sit in the lobby waiting for somebody to walk out and say, "Hey, Larry, I'm here to meet with you." And, it was just weird because what I didn't know was that I could just walk into the office of the advisors. So it just got me thinking, hey, we should make some kind of app where the advisors can know that somebody's waiting outside for them. And, I just kind of made a really simple app. I called it Lobby Queue at the time. And we got it in a couple advising offices at FSU, where if you were a student waiting to meet with an advisor, you could walk in, sign in on the laptop. The advisors would know you're waiting for them when they're inside of their room, and they could just instantly walk outside and say, "Hey, let's chat." And at the time, that was really interesting because I didn't go to college wanting to make apps. It just kind of happened based on my life. I saw an issue and I said, "Hey, let's see what we can do to solve it." And I just, in my mind at the time, that was apps. And that led me to Domi. This would have been right around 2014, 2015. I graduated from college. I had a software engineering internship at this time. And for whatever reason, I didn't want to have a full-time job. I really wanted to make my own apps and see if I could market them. So this coincided with Domi opening up, which is a co-working space. And that's where I met you, right? I walked in there one day and I said, "Who's this interesting person?" And yeah, we chatted and we've been in touch ever since. I worked with you on some of your client work too, right?
Right, absolutely. And Larry was really impressive to me as a student, just making things happen for himself. And I appreciate how I don't even know how we probably bumped into each other, because I feel like you weren't shy and you walked up to me and like, hey, I'd like to meet you. You were just great about just connecting right away. You didn't hesitate, which was really impressive to me. And then when we talked about LobbyQ, I was so excited that you were developing an app. And I just thought, man, this kid's going places. He already knows. And I don't think I even knew that by then, did you already have your TED Talk? And did you, or no, I remember watching your TED Talk after that. Yeah. Okay.
But that would have all been around the same time. Yeah. So like, in addition to apps I write, I just sometimes like, I think like my main thesis is I might see an issue and I try to think of a way to address it or even maybe help solve it. And, sometimes that is apps, but sometimes that's just writing. So, like around this time, it was just something I'd noticed where after every election, we would show these maps that weren't really all that helpful. We just color every state red or blue. And, like there's no single state that everybody votes one way. But that's almost like the way that we talk about every election. And I wanted us to have more like realistic or nuanced conversations about elections, because I think, you can't really like have any progress if you're not talking about things with nuance or truth. So I just decided I'm gonna make this map. I studied art and I knew a little color theory, and like one thing I noticed is whenever we did try to make maps that were more nuanced, we'd mix together the red and blue, and it would make this purple color, which we would think is helpful, but in reality, we can't really tell if a purple is more red or more blue. So I wanted to see if there was another way to have more clarity. So I created this map that I think did that slightly better. I wrote an article about it. This was published on Medium, back when Medium was taken off. And then I also posted on Reddit. There was a subreddit at the time. I think it had like maybe 100,000 to 200,000 readers on it. So I posted on there. It went viral. It went to the Reddit's homepage. Back then, Reddit had a homepage. Now there's like all these algorithms, so like nobody ever sees the same thing. But back in the day, there was a homepage, and everybody would see whatever is on the homepage. And this article made it on there. And then after that, Fast Company wrote about it, and I was like, "Whoa, that's wild! Like that's crazy how you can just like have a concept, you just write something, you post it, and then everybody's recirculating it in their own networks." So like the crazy thing about that is like that TED Talk that came from that was a whole lot of happenstance. So the day after Fast Company wrote about that story, I happened to be in the office of one of my mentors, and his coworker walked into the office while we were looking at this article that, I was like, "Hey, look what happened. Fast Company wrote about this thing." And, as it happened, his coworker who walked into the room at the time, he is an avid reader of Fast Company. So he was like, "Oh, you guys are reading that article too?" And then my mentor was like, "Yeah, that's Larry's article. Like Larry made that map." And he was like, "Whoa, that's crazy." But like, what's really interesting about that is he was the person directing the next TEDx event. So he said, "You should apply to talk about this map at TEDx." And I wouldn't have applied if that like if that situation didn't occur, I wouldn't have applied. So I applied. Luckily, I got accepted, and that's how the TED Talk happened. Like a whole lot of happenstance that stemmed from me writing one article and a whole bunch of different people who normally wouldn't be in the same room together were all in the same room at the same time.
That's really cool. And it seems like sometimes things happen because of luck, and sometimes like it's kind of a little bit of both, where you really have to be out there making things happen for yourself, which is really cool. I didn't even realize that's how you ended up applying for TED Talks. That's really neat. I would love to talk a little bit more about like all the different things you've done too. I have, some visuals. I pulled up the map. If people have noticed that, let me just go ahead and pull that up again, because it really is really interesting how you discovered that. And I love how you mentioned you had an art background, you have coding abilities, and even great writing skills, obviously being featured in so many media outlets. So would you say that you're like in experimentation mode right now, like as a solo entrepreneur and consultant, or and is your goal to eventually scale something at some point? I think I was like that. I feel like for me, several years in the beginning, I didn't want to scale something that I wasn't super thrilled about. You have the potential to scale any of these things that you've created. What would you say your journey is like right now at present?
So it's the old, do you want to work independently, or do you want to grow an organization that is more than just yourself, right? That's the crux of it. I'm not opposed to growing an organization or even joining one. I'm not opposed to any of those things, but I feel like that the mission behind something like that would have to be something so meaningful that it makes it worth the effort.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of effort involved in growing a business. As you understand, because you actually have a team, and there's a lot of things that go underappreciated when we imagine just like scaling anything up. So as of right now, it's a lot of experimentation. And for the most part, I do work solo. I do have a contractor who works with me on some things.
Cool.
But I like where I'm at right now. I can control my time. I can explore these things. I can decide today I'm going to write a story. Today I'm going to work with my clients. I can do all those things right now, and I think that gives me a lot of freedom, which I currently value a whole lot.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page about that. I think that's one of the reasons why. I mean, we obviously are confident with our skill set and what we can provide for someone as far as value, to whatever organization we're a part of or whatever we create. And I think you have plenty of time as a young person. You're still young, Larry. You've got time. I don't have time for me.
So I just turned 30. I don't know, man.
No, it sounds old to you, but no, you still got plenty of time. And no, I completely agree. And what would you say to somebody who's considering to do a side hustle, to maybe exit out of their day job? Because there is a huge movement that you might have heard of, which is called the Great
Resignation.
Exactly. I'm hearing multiple kinds: Great Resignation, Great Retirement age or something, a phase or era. And also I think I've heard someone say the Great Reset. I think it was James Altucher who said Great Reset, but yeah, it's a whole nother era. What I would say that there's a big opportunity for professionals like us who left a long time ago, recognize this, that we chose ourselves to create something, to make a work-life balance atmosphere and culture for ourselves. So what would your recommendation be?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, where it was a choice you made and you valued things. You valued a work-life balance. And, I think it could be tempting to observed that, this is a period of time where more people are leaving their jobs than at least any other time in recent history. And somebody might be tempted to go, hey, I'm going to quit my job. And I would say to that, if you're comfortable where you're at, don't, like if you like what you're doing, if you're comfortable where you're at, I say be careful with leaving, because there's not always a guarantee that the grass would be greener on the other side.
Yeah.
But I think the people like us who did leave long before the Great Resignation, we saw the things that we valued, and we decided that we weren't going to get those things unless we did them in our own way. For me, I think I mentioned I had a software engineering internship when I was an undergrad, and the work was great. The company was great. It was actually one of the best employers in the state of Florida. And as far as the ranking goes concerned, I liked the people I worked with there. There was nothing wrong with the company. And I was offered a job there too. But it was a personal decision to me, which was I didn't want to spend what I felt was the majority of my life sitting in a cubicle in a way. Well, even if it's, whatever you want to call it, a box
It's true.
indoors.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at it like 9 to 5, that's like 8 hours out of the day. You sleep for about 8 hours. Like you've got like 1/3 of your day left. Maybe you're eating breakfast, lunch, like doing a lot. Like it just feels like such a big commitment of your life to commit to one physical space. And today we have remote work. Ever since COVID happened, a lot more companies have been open to their employees working from home, working remotely. It's a lot more, as long as you get the work done for us, we don't care where and how you do that. I do not think that was a mindset 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago, the mindset was we have to be in this physical space, and because our company culture matters and the company culture is part of our physical location. So, like, in a way, I do question if we could work remotely 10 years ago, if I would have made the jump. So if any employers are listening right now and you're wanting your employees to come back to the office, the ones that don't want to come back, that have been doing a great job, maybe let them continue to work wherever they want to. And so I guess like I'm kind of rambling here, but the gist is see what values the most, see what you value. There are people who do like an office environment. It helps them stay focused. Great thing about an office is everybody's there. You've got your coworkers all in one place. There's an easier opportunity for advancement in your job because there's just more happenstance. You could run into somebody in the hallway. Your boss sees you more. There's all these things that do happen in a physical office that you may not get remotely as well. So, long story short, see what you value. I think the people who do quit would have quit anyways. And it has nothing to do with the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
But when you add COVID and everything on top of that, the things that we do value have stayed, but the environment around it has shifted to the point that some have also decided that this no longer aligns with what I value.
Yeah. No, I think you touched something very crucial that employers need to be aware of, and that is there's multiple things. First is the culture, and now it's not about just like showing up at work 9 to 5. It really is about like, okay, what's the purpose and what is making it meaningful for me to show up every day to spend my time in, like, I mean, especially for people like me with kids, like I'm spending my time more for this organization to build their dream versus me being with my family, me building something else that is more meaningful to me. you got to make it like you got to pay what I'm worth first of all. And like you, Larry, too, the same thing, which is I've been offered multiple opportunities to do other things, but I have to really weigh like what is worth my time. You know, that you can't put a price to freedom and the ability to control your workload. And same thing as like being able to roam around and be like, you're at a coffee shop, I'm guessing. Like I do love the freedom to be able to work wherever I can. We're creative people. That's just how creative people operate. We just need space. We need, they say it really helps with creativity too if you're in a different place, not in the same place every single day. I don't know if I'd survive being in a cubicle every single day for years on end. And it's just, I totally relate, absolutely relate to what you're saying. So this is valuable information out there for you people who want to grow a team that will get things done. It's not just,
if I grow a team, it would be a remote team. Like I have no problem working with anybody from anywhere. All that matters to me is, can you do the work?
Yeah.
You know, can you meet the deadlines?
Yeah. Well, thanks to technology, you can have a team that's full-time remote. Like Zapier has, I think they operate 99% remote. Like and they're valuated at billions. So I wanted to ask you about consulting and e-commerce. Like you've obviously, like even as a student, you helped me out with consultation, and I'll go ahead and just pull this slide up here. Tell me a little bit more about what you're doing today with your consultation.
Awesome. There's always a story, isn't there? So how did the consulting story begin? You know, man, I owe a lot to FSU. Because the consulting story started at FSU. While I was making those apps, I got introduced to some people who would become my mentors. And one of those people had a software-ish company. You see them on your slide, Genevia. And at the time, they wanted to redesign their website. But most importantly, they also wanted to create this section of their site just for their primary users. So they are a software toolkit used by a decent chunk of Fortune 500 companies. I'm pretty sure their software has even made it to rockets. So, you know, like they're not like a very like well-known brand, but their tools have made a lot of impact. And part of what makes their tool awesome is it's easy to work with for developers. So they wanted to create this section on their website where the developers who use their tool can easily find the documentation, navigate it, and also they wanted it to be easy for them, the owners, to manage and update. They were, at the time, this was all in like Acrobat files, right? And I helped them convert that to Markdown. And that was super easy for them to work with. So that was kind of like how I got into more like just web consulting in general. You know, but in that process, I was just like, I think word of mouth is really important. Like if you do something well for one client, they'll recommend you to another person. You know, like in this industry, you'll find that sometimes somebody will approach you for work and you're not the person who can do that work, but part of the value that you provide in your expertise is maybe you can refer somebody who is an expert on it, and they came to you for that as well. So that's how I kind of got into e-commerce consulting that way. One of the people that I was referred to for another web project later on became the chief operating officer of Tropic Isle Living. This is a company with about 20 employees. At the time they had 20. I think they've been growing. They manufacture Jamaican black castor oil. So they have a physical facility in Georgia, Marietta, Georgia. and they distribute those products to a lot of retail stores. So you'll find them in Rite Aid, you'll find them in Target. They also sell online, so they would sell their products on Amazon, Walmart, and in addition to that, they sold their products on their own online storefront. So their online storefront used to be on WooCommerce, and that they were having issues with their website in general, but they also wanted to migrate their site to Shopify. And I came in with more of a project management role on this. I worked with their team. They had a designer who helped with the web design, and I kind of like just drafted the timeline for the project, as well as helped with the development of part of it. Actually, I helped with all of the development. I wrote all the code actually, but that wasn't like the whole project wasn't just writing code, if that makes sense. So, I created that timeline for them. I helped them understand how they could use certain tools that exist in the web with their online storefront. And, that project went well. It went well because it was on time. It was as advertised. And one thing that I really like about it is after we completed it, they did see an increase in sales. It was almost night and day. They saw a 2x increase in sales on their website, which is actually rare. That's actually
that's great.
You never see that. And the reason why I think is because we addressed a lot of the very common issues websites have. I don't think we did anything super groundbreaking here.
Mm-hmm.
They have not a very slow website, but nowadays users expect very fast websites. So even if your website's a couple seconds slow, that can impact your sales. So it's one of the things that was important in this migration and translation was to make sure that this website operates snappy. It was also easy to navigate. So as the consultant, I made those things important. And I said, you need to make sure your website does these things. And, after that project, I ended up working with other clients in e-commerce in the same way. I would focus more on their websites, their online storefronts. They would tend to be on Shopify. And yep, I just kind of would grow clients through word of mouth is really how it tends to work, at least for me.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. I mean, it's always a good sign when you have customers referring you. And that's like the cheapest form of advertising, obviously. and that's wonderful. I wanted to also mention how not only have you been able to grow your business pretty much on your own through the media outlets and also just the publications that you've been able to put out there. You've been featured on FSU's Noteable list, right? Noteable Nole's alumni list. So one of 18 alumni recognized for your contribution in your profession and communities. So tell me about that. How did it feel when you were featured there? I remember you sharing about it in Facebook.
Dude, that was completely unexpected. I just got an email one day and they were like, "Dear Larry, congratulations." And I was like, what? I didn't know that I was in the running for it. I didn't apply for it. Somebody applied for me, which I'm really grateful for. It was somebody from the College of Fine Arts, which is my college at FSU.
Yeah.
They submitted an application on my behalf, and it just happened. I was kind of shocked, but I was also really happy.
Yeah. No, it's the best when you're not even trying to do that and somebody nominates you first. It's great PR, it's great credibility and social proof. So not only were you on TED Talk, but you were featured there too. Weren't you also part of the 7 Under 30 panel? I think that was part of the.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I have a speech impairment. Sometimes I stutter.
It's very subtle. I didn't even notice.
My Slate story covers it.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yep.
cool. You open some vulnerability?
Yeah. I guess I haven't started a whole lot in this call, but when it comes out, it comes out.
And you can always you can use the platform as an excuse, like, oh, it's kind of glitchy. Like, with internet, you can always blame that. But no, I can't. Have you managed to overcome that personally? Like, or what in your article, did you talk about that?
Yeah. So like the thing about stuttering is it's on a spectrum. I'm kind of lucky in that mine isn't as intense, I guess, is a good word. So, when you stutter, there tends to be certain things that would be difficult for you to say. Like maybe there are certain movements in your mouth. Some people have a hard time with certain letters. So, I'm lucky in that there are only a few words here and there where I have a block, and it's not always. I don't always have a block on them either. But there's other people who have more consonants, more vowels that they do block on, and even if you're if you could imagine, like if I told you, or if somebody told you they're 85% fluent, would you think they stutter a lot? Like if 85, it sounds like you're mostly fluent, right?
Yeah.
85%. But as it happens, like even being 85% fluent, that would result in you stuttering in almost every sentence, right? Because there are so many different combinations of mouth movements in every sentence that there's if you only stutter on 15% of consonants and vowels, you'll stutter every sentence. I'm more in like the 90, probably like 98, 99% fluent. So you don't notice it for me as much. But when it happens, it happens. You should read my Slate story because I cover it on there. And certain situations such as technology do make it come out more. Especially like phone calls. So it's interesting. Like this is a prime example of when somebody would stutter a lot. Is this phone call? In the past month, have you heard of the person who? There's a TikToker who has been. She does have a stutter, and she's been kind of filming herself in the driveways, like ordering.
No, I haven't.
Items on the menus. So like when you go to a menu to I'm studying right now, but when you go to a menu, like oftentimes like we stutter on certain words, and menus are the worst because if there's a word on a menu you can't say and you see it, you start to have all this anxiety and anticipation, and it makes stutter worse.
Yeah.
So that's one situation where somebody would stutter more often than usual.
How have you managed like with the TED Talks and your presentations, like when you were, pretty young still and in college? Yeah. Didn't it trigger some of that anxiety?
So when you ask if you overcome it, I think you just have to not avoid it. Like if you try to avoid it, there's no really when you stutter, like most people who stutter, they start stuttering around the age of 5. It goes away by the age of 10 or 12ish. But if it doesn't go away by then, you'll stutter the rest of your life. It's not really something that you can just one day be cured of. As of today, there is no known cure for it. If you're an adult who stutters, you'll stutter the rest of your life. So and knowing that, you just have to not avoid it. You can lessen the impact that it has on your life by.
That's really good.
Yeah, so that TED Talk, I stuttered in the middle of it.
Nobody
which you
remembers
actually
that.
won't see. You won't see it. It was edited out. I actually wish it wasn't edited out because I want to be like, yeah, here's that dude. He gave a TED talk. He stutters, but he didn't care. He still got up on stage and talked. So in retrospect, I do wish it wasn't edited out, but there can be a lot of shame involved in it, and like it's definitely like it's known to be one of those things that employers can choose to discriminate against.
Mm.
So at the time it just felt like let's just not have a video with me stuttering out there.
But I think honestly, like I really love the uniqueness of that story. And you might have seen the King's Speech, Colin Firth when he played
Yep.
that movie. I
Mhm.
had no idea, and I loved that movie. I absolutely loved how he had that problem and nobody had any idea. And the delivery of that famous speech was so impactful, and he was coached through that,
Mhm.
and so I love how you touch on it too. And definitely I didn't even realize your article would touch on that. And I would imagine a lot of your publications have to do with tech or health and
Mhm.
communications, but that's really neat. That
Oh
you
yeah.
should definitely do a video or just like start. You know how like in social media people share content about like the personal side of things, and that vulnerability is
Mhm.
what really connects you to people. Just random strangers, you'll earn their trust. And it's a big, it is a valuable type of piece of content to share out there. So
Sorry, I
thanks for.
just lost audio for a second. Can you still hear me?
Yes, now I can. I mean, I shared.
Okay.
I could hear you a little bit. Are you
All
good?
right. Sure. Can you lift it? Yeah. Okay. I'm here. Yep.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
We're good.
What was your
No,
question?
so I was saying like I really appreciate that you've opened that personal side to your speech impediment, and it's not like something I really noticed much. But yeah, no, that's impressive. You wrote about it.
Oh yeah, dude, that's super important. Like, uh, it's like if you're gonna tell, this is something like, it's like, why would a medical school teach you these things? Like, school should be about healing people, right? So it's interesting. Like I did a program at a medical school this year. It was a program about how to use storytelling, right, as a tool to basically like make a difference in the health of a society, right? And what's interesting is like we know that the stories that have more openness, more vulnerability, stuttered again, those are the stories that readers would resonate with more, because
Yes.
there's something about that they latch onto and remember and even want to
Yes.
share with others.
It's really true. It's impactful. And we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to ask you too, because I know you touched on medical school. So you're talking about the Harvard medical program, right? That you went through. I wanted to
Yep.
ask you what that experience was like. So tell me the story of like what made you want to get into that program, and then you finished obviously, and now writing and getting published there. I haven't even like pulled up everything that you've done, but I can just quickly share here how you were able to, like all of it is, yeah.
Yep. So, like as I mentioned earlier, like sometimes when I see problems, I want to think of ways to address them, and sometimes that's through writing. Like that's how the TED Talk kind of developed from. It was a story that I wrote that led to that, but I was really just telling a story that I felt would hopefully become a conversation piece and lead to us having more honest conversations about politics, which impacts health, right? It does. But at the time, it was just about politics in general. So, I think I noticed that like writing can be a tool to make a difference. And another thing that happened was COVID. So during COVID, I happened to know more about certain aspects of the virus and also our solutions for it than just like the average person. I did study biology in undergrad. That was my other degree. I took an epidemiology course, a graduate level one. So I also kind of like understand um, how people in public health look at certain like measures like masks and social distancing and how that makes a difference. And I would just write things on my own feeds, like on Facebook. Like I would maybe like share a graph that I thought was interesting that would show, hey, actually like the things that we're doing, like masks, are making a difference. Social distancing is making a difference. And at the same time, it felt like I was only like reaching my own echo chamber. So when I ran into this program that was like, here's how you can use storytelling to make a larger impact, it just kind of resonated with me. The fact that it was at Harvard was cool. Like, of course, that's, it has a lot of name recognition. It's a really strong brand name. But even if the program was at another school, I probably would have still signed up for it because it resonated a lot with me. And in that program, it was directed. One of the directors of it is actually like the writer and executive producer for Law and Order SVU, ER, Designated Survivor. And so like as he wrote his shows, he was originally a med school student, and he went into Hollywood because he wanted to put public health stories into entertainment. So if you watch an episode of ER, you'll see that they might talk about health-related issues. Like every episode, it's a show about health-related issues. But some of the things they talk about would be things that at the time were important in the general public health conversation. And they also ran studies on this and saw that when they would weave these topics into their stories, it could be, it didn't even have to be about the whole episode. It could be like a 1-minute segue in a story. As long as it's told in a storytelling format, viewers would remember those things that were introduced to them. And they would remember those things more reliably than if it was told to them in any like in other formats. Like if their doctor told them this thing, they would have forgotten it. If a public service announcement told them this thing, they would have forgotten it. But if it was included in this TV show episode, they were more likely to remember it, right? So, and like that actually did have an impact in the health of the public because these shows would have so many viewers, right? It would actually move the needle. So, so like, just like seeing that aspect of these shows that we all watched as kids for entertainment was super interesting. Like they deliberately included these things to impact the health of the public. That's super cool.
That is.
And, like that's just like one aspect of the program is just like learning directly from somebody like that. There are all kinds of people in this program, though. There are contributors for NBC who would come in there to talk to us. There would be columnists at the New York Times who would come in there to talk to us.
Cool.
There would be just writers in general, people who have written a lot of op-eds and stories for outlets, major outlets. And just like all of these people who decided to take their time out of their lives to participate in this program showed that this program itself and the things that they're teaching are something that is valued in society. So it just kind of like inspired me take what I learned and put it in practice.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
yep. In the program, I kind of learned how to pitch stories to outlets. My first story was the Slate story. That was a cold pitch. I didn't have any like connections on that or anything like that. I pitched the story just like anybody else would, but they taught us how to do that, and that was really grateful because I was able to get my story, which is a personal story about my experience as a person who stutters in a changing tech landscape as we move towards voice first society. We have like Amazon Echo. We had Clubhouse at the time.
Right.
Yep. So I could almost see like the struggles that I have as a speaker were almost going to keep me away from society if society shifted towards voice. And I wanted to advocate for that. I would be
awesome.
disenfranchised. So, yep, I ran that story, and it actually was picked up by Gizmodo in Japan. Somebody translated the story into Japanese, so it reached an international audience, which was really awesome.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Larry, there's so much we can talk about. I could keep asking you a lot of questions, and you're such a good storyteller. I wanted to end with a few just questions on, everything related to social media for those who are considering to grow a following, just almost pretty much accomplish what you are able to accomplish at such a young age. Like we touched upon, I know social media has helped, right? You mentioned Reddit. You mentioned, I know there's some other Medium and other things. Now you're on really main, obviously Vox is huge, Slate is huge. What would you say for somebody who doesn't have access to those kinds of connections, how to start? And especially because you did it yourself. You're on LinkedIn. So for those of you who are watching, just follow him on LinkedIn. You can find him there, and even on Twitter. I know Twitter, you're big on Twitter. So what has helped you, and what do you recommend for people who want to start growing their following?
I think if you have a message to get out there, post it where it would make the most sense. And that's it's almost like a meaningless answer in a way, because
it's absolutely true. Yeah, you're right.
So, but I mean that in a way, that Reddit. So the story that I wrote on Medium, I wrote it on Medium in 2014, back when Medium was taking off. This was when Medium was seeing that exponential growth, and people would find stories on Medium and share it. People did kind of see Medium as an authoritative source at the time, before people caught on to the fact that anybody can post on Medium. So I think that helped as well. But Reddit at the time was a place where you could post things, they could get on the homepage, they could take off. Reddit is still that kind of place, but now there are other places as well. I'm seeing people who are posting things on TikTok. And
I was going to guess you were going to say that.
I don't have a TikTok account. I should probably make one, but that doesn't change the fact that I'm observing the fact that there is always a change in attention,
right,
where people are putting their attention towards. And if you can pay attention to that, and if you can get your message to where everybody's attention is, it's more likely to spread.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend Medium today, back as I would in 2014, but pay attention to what is everybody using right now, and
absolutely. No, it's true, because now with the recent Facebook, shut down that one day when everybody was panicking, and even Instagram was down. Now, obviously Meta, whatever you want to call it, you can't just fully invest in one platform. If your business is all just on one platform, then it's going to cost you a lot, right? So especially if it's down. So it's good to have dabble and experience with multiple platforms, but you don't want to overextend and overwhelm yourself managing too many, right? So I think the principle applies, like what Larry was saying, is you want to be where the people are. You want to post where you're trying to connect with your audience. It depends on who you really want to reach and talk to, right, Larry? So,
and also don't underestimate the power of your story. Like if what's interesting is like if you feel like you have something to say, sometimes you can like shut yourself down. You'd be like, oh no, nobody cares about this. Like I didn't think anybody would care about my maps. Like when I first posted them, like really, who cares about maps? But I cared about it enough to write about it, and I didn't even post it on Reddit until a friend told me to. Is the one who said you need to post this thing on this subreddit. And I was like,
that's
okay,
great.
So like like if you have like, don't underestimate the story, because like that matters more than your connections. It matters more than almost anything else. Like I say that I pitched a story to Slate again. They've denied that story. Like those connections don't matter as much as the specific story you're pitching. So like and if you have a good story, it doesn't matter where it runs. You could run it on your own blog and it would still spread because people would resonate with it.
That is so powerful, Larry. I'm glad you that's a great note to end on. I'm so glad you emphasized the impact of story, because that is the most valuable. Like, you can't put a price to the story. Nobody else can tell your story better than you can, right? So it's really true. And it's the same goes for like, if you throw money towards an ad and if the content and message isn't really meaningful to anybody, then you're throwing money away. So I really appreciate that you said that. Did you want to end with anything? I will give everybody your contact info, share it and pull it up on the screen in a few minutes, but this is a great way to conclude. I'll give you the last and final words.
Well, it was great to catch up with you. I guess I didn't come here with any agenda, just other than to catch up. So it was nice to hang out and catch up.
I love having a conversation with you and catching up with you, Larry. Thank you so much for being on the show. For those of you who don't have his info, please follow him on Twitter. You got his handle there, and he's on LinkedIn. And his website too. And as we mentioned earlier before we hopped on, he actually has great rankings. If you guys want to check it out, I have it up here. Oh, we didn't even talk about we didn't even talk about STEM Lounge. Like, you have so many different things. This is so interesting. So you guys should sign up for his newsletter, STEM Lounge, if anything, because he said, he had no agenda. He's not trying to push anything or promote anything. I appreciate him taking the time to share his story. There's this nice little pop-up there. It looks great. This website looks great. So here's his website. You see all the media companies he's been featured on. You can get to know him there, his publications. If you Google him, you'll see all of the important links that pulls up in the top 10 rankings out of thousands and thousands. So for those of you who'd like to follow him, please follow him in all those channels.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, everyone. We will end right here and have a great day.
Take care.